Disclaimer, the pandemic of coronavirus is causing my life to literally fall apart around me, so the sole reason I have to live right now is to make episodes of Delightfully Devilish. So if you're watching this show right now, thank you. You are keeping me from ending my life. And with the disclaimer out of the way, let's begin this episode. When Jaws pioneered blockbuster filmmaking back in 1975, so many other filmmakers were keen to cash in on that craze immediately. And there was so many obvious Jaws ripoffs that followed, but only one that got way too big for its own good.
Delightfully devilish, Seymour.
Yes, everybody, welcome back to Delightfully Devilish, the show where we discuss films that all at once meet the criteria of being the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm your host, Jukebox Harry, and today we're going back into the ocean to see the film that Universal Films did not want you to see. So following the success of Jaws, carbon ripoffs of the film were very quick to follow. We ended up with good films like Piranha, bad films like Orca and Tentacles, good bad films like Piranha 2: The Spawning, and downright terrible films like Monster Shark and Tintorera. Yet none of them are as close to the story of Jaws, yet as far away from the production values as Great White. But before I actually start discussing this film, I want to show you this little clip from its trailer.
Coming right at him!
Great White, the most terrifying motion picture of 1982. Great White, rated PG.
The most terrifying film rated PG. Now, I would be really surprised if any film you've seen rated PG actually ranks among the scariest films of all time, maybe excluding the original Nosferatu because that is a chilling masterpiece, but this film will haunt you not because it's scary, but because it's bad. Great White opens with a montage of shots depicting fun times had by all on the water as a list of Italians you've never heard of grace the screen. Then the title appears, but the film is called The Last Shark. Now, it's always a sign of a bad film when a movie was thrown around the world with several different titles because just one didn't work. But why did they call this film The Last Shark? Nothing about the film lives up to the title The Last Shark. And then you hear this sound. He just looks and sees that the board is missing a huge chunk, yet he keeps surfing like it's nothing. My board's missing a chunk. Oh, that's harsh, dude. And then he explodes into the air. Because that's exactly what happens when a shark rams into you. You explode. I mean, I know there was that one shark prone to exploding in Jaws, but I think the filmmakers took that a little too literally when they made Great White. Then we see that the creators picked the most Robert Shaw lookalike actor they could get to play who we can clearly guess will be the film's version of Quint. He stares deep into the torn remains of the board as he ponders what in life led him to need to take on a role in this film to sustain himself financially.
One thing's for sure, it wasn't a floating chainsaw.
Really? But all the evidence points to that. And I mean, it's not like you've caught a floating chainsaw killer before, so he could still be out there. This girl sits on the edge of a boat. A very small, fake shark comes underneath the boat and doesn't hit anything. But we still get the sound effect to pretend that it does. Then she falls in, and this guy looks around confused as all hell before helping her. After they pull her out, we get this line, which is written nearly as poorly as it was dubbed.
What's wrong with you guys? You almost scraped my side off.
You hear that? They almost break her side off. First of all, what? Second of all, how? And third of all, why? Why should I give a shit? I shouldn't, because if I spend too much time trying to understand the language barrier that clearly plagued this production, then I'm just gonna break my side off. Robert Not So Sure is revealed to be carrying something incriminating on his boat. And we get this shot, where the cinematographer starts zooming in on his hand and almost misses the mark. Then he realizes there's nothing confirming that it's severed in the shot and pans down to reveal that it's a bloody arm. But it's okay, because Mr. Mustachios has never been known to quit.
I've never been known to quit.
His lips really don't move at all when he says that line. But if I spend too much time focusing on the dubbing in this half-Italian, half-English abomination of a film, then I'm gonna be here for hours. But there is this one scene where the ethnically ambiguous Robert Not So Sure speaks fluent Italian.
Because the great white shark, you cannot scare off.
And basically, this guy is a political figure who doesn't want to shut down the beach because it would end the financial security of tourism during the summer. Sound familiar? Yeah. Then we touch upon the intro scene from Jaws with a girl running topless into the water. But get this, it's in slow motion this time. And we have several shots of people swimming in the water interspersed with footage of fake sharks and actual sharks. Now, the use of actual shark footage could be a credit to this film, but it's always shot with an alarmingly different filter to the footage of the fake sharks. So when they cut in between it, it's just way too artificial to be even the slightest bit convincing. The shark apparently breaks through some wire shark netting, but it's okay, because the teenagers who all ran slow motion into the water now run out of it. Also in slow motion. They don't do anything that suggests they're aware of any threat being there. They just run out. slowly, for no apparent reason. If you remove the slow motion, they were in the water for about 3 seconds, so I don't know, maybe it was just too cold for their liking. Now during this all, one of the buoys disappears, suggesting that a shark took it. Yeah, where have we seen this before? This becomes important later on, because after several minutes of nothing interesting, we have a windsurfing competition, where suddenly that buoy reappears. This of course is the filmmaker's cheap tactic of letting us know the shark has reappeared without actually showing it. Yes, that same tactic was used in Jaws, but they did that because they wanted to build up to the reveal of the shark. The great white just cuts back and forth between showing the shark and not showing the shark with no bloody consistency whatsoever. Then suddenly everyone starts falling off their boards, and I don't know if they're meant to be getting knocked off or if they're voluntarily falling over out of fear, but they're all as stilted and lifeless as dominoes and they fall down as such. Then another shark explosion appears, and the guy is swapped for an obvious mannequin, and when he lands, the shark pops his head out of the ocean. Almost as if to just say hi.
Hey, buddy.
Then he goes back under, but he doesn't drag this guy with him. He voluntarily pulls himself under, because the filmmakers don't want us to see that. They just want us to have a glimpse of how fake the shark is before returning to their own lazy style of filmmaking. Later we have a scuba diver going head to head with a shark, with even more footage of real sharks shot in different lighting intercut with shots of an obviously fake shark who is now apparently trying to seal the diver in a cave. So this creature isn't killing as part of a hunt to sustain itself, it's just genuinely an asshole. It's as if this shark has a vendetta or something. So maybe this film actually went on to inspire Jaws the Revenge, which came out in 1987. So a terrible Jaws ripoff might have actually inspired what is cited as the worst shark movie of all time. I don't know the likelihood of that, but it's so fun to believe that. Then we have a middle-class white male boy opening fire on the shark like it's the classroom of an American high school. Yes, I went there, and I will continue to go there until you establish gun control, America. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. And technically, a group of fish is called a school, so if he's shooting at them, this could be classified as a school shooting. So, was this honestly the kid's idea, to take a boat out and just start firing randomly at a shark? Is this what Italian filmmakers thought Americans would do? They would just go out and start shooting everything? To be fair, this is the universal stereotype of Americans, just shooting things.
I started blasting. Bang! Bang! No, I don't see so good, so I missed. Then they ran away. I ran after them.
Okay.
Bang! Try to shoot them in the back. But I don't run so good either. Anyway, you guys all think I'm a hero, and I'll accept that responsibility.
So this scene has more shots of actual sharks shot in different places at different times, and again, this is another thing I'm going to have to stop commenting on because it happens so frequently in Great White, and if I keep talking about it, I'm going to be here till the end of time. We get an even greater look at the fake model shark that's ramming the boat. The boat doesn't explode this time though. That shark must have been wounded by those bullets. But then it jams itself in the engine, so they decide to feed it. And a fake shark jumps out of the water, but a real shark eats the bait. They start to shout. How were you planning to kill it? None of you are holding weapons. You're not even holding that gun anymore. A piece of rope breaks, and then this kid poorly pretends to slip and actively push the girl into the water, and she falls in a prolonged slow motion take. And apparently gets her leg bit off, but we don't see it. A helicopter goes after the fake, real shark hybrid, and suddenly we're seeing the exact same footage from before, some from different angles, and some from the exact same. Then suddenly the helicopter begins looking like a toy floating above a bathtub, almost as if the helicopter has caught the same real fake hybrid sickness that the shark is suffering from. This guy falls in and keeps calling for his friend Bernie. He gets his leg bit off, and then the helicopter pilot continues to make faces of emotionless confusion until the shark grabs his toy helicopter and pulls it into the water. Then this third random guy has the idea that if he uses meat, he can stop the shark, because that definitely works the first 2 times.
What's that, spare ribs? You might say horse spare ribs.
Why did he say that? I don't think he was thinking of saying less spare ribs.
Don't you think I know the pain you're going through? But he's down there. He's down there now. He's waiting to attack. And this is the only thing we have to stop him. And there's only one dynamite belt, so what's the sense in risking both our necks? And that's what it's gonna take to kill that bastard. I need you on the ship. If I'm in trouble down there, you're the only one that can bail me out. Now, is what I'm saying make any sense to you?
No, it really fucking isn't. It's poorly written dialogue, probably written originally in Italian, then poorly translated over to English, only to be delivered in a very angry attempt at a Scottish accent for some reason. Scuba flip! Then the dickhead shark literally pulls the end off a pier and drags the bystanders with him. Seriously, just what an asshole. Like, fuck you, shark. You should be ashamed of yourself. A few people jump off, a few people stay on, and then the shark rears its head again. Because it looks like that shark is bending its neck in a way that it shouldn't be able to. If I have any marine biology people viewing this, please tell me if sharks can bend their necks like that, but I'm gonna assume the worst. Another shark explosion happens, followed by a really long slow motion shot, which is drawn out before he resurfaces. Screams! and shows off his blood butt. Now we get a nice throwback to Jaws 2 with a girl who just won't stop screaming. We get to see more of the shark, and it looks less and less convincing the more time it has on screen. Yeah, there was a couple of reasons Steven Spielberg didn't show the shark all that much in Jaws. One of the reasons being that he thought it looked too fake. This film just keeps on shoving it in our faces. Now, honestly, from a shark movie that's not Jaws, I'd like to see more of the shark and less of the hidden camera technique, but you're just being louder and louder about how unconvincing that special effect is. Most of them get rescued, but Scuba Steve gets trapped there as he fights the shark with a 2x4, like Dwayne Johnson in Walking Tall. Then he feeds dynamite into the shark's mouth, and then we get the absolute greatest scene in the film. I love this scene so much. This is the scene that made me know this movie had to be in a Delightfully Devilish episode. I mean, Scuba Steve got confused to the idea that he was in an action film, delivering that poorly written finishing line, and then diving into water infested by a killer great white shark, and look at that death scene. I don't know if I would rate that better or worse than the death scene from Jaws the Revenge, but I would certainly say its badness is a lot more coherent, and thus it's far more enjoyable. Now, when I first watched this film, I was working at a summer camp. I remember showing this clip to my campers, and they pissed themselves. And later on that day when I was lifeguarding, some of my campers were actually reenacting that scene. They would stand at the end of the pool, shout, "Damn you!" and then jump off the pool sideways in that exact same pose. So at least the makers of Great White can take pleasure in knowing that they brought some degree of small happiness to the Jewish teenagers of northern Pennsylvania. Then the film is over. So, is Great White a bad movie? If Jaws is the greatest shark movie of all time, then Great White is its polar opposite. There is probably two essential criteria that go into defining whether or not a shark movie is good or not. One is how good the death scenes are executed and how well the film builds a terrifying atmosphere. And two, how much the film deviates from Jaws. So let's review. The death scenes range between mediocre and downright terrible. The atmosphere is non-existent, and the plotline is the exact same plotline as Jaws, minus all the character development and good dialogue that went into that film. Now, there are very few shark movies I've seen outside of Jaws that I actually liked. Now, these would be Deep Blue Sea and The Meg for their big-budget B-movie exploits. 47 Meters Down for its original premise and claustrophobic atmosphere. Sharknado 2 for its absolute shamelessness. And then there's Red Water, which will in fact end up on this show one day. But when it comes to unremarkable shark films I've seen, well, they're abundant in numbers. Perhaps the most interesting thing about Great White is actually its production history. Great White was distributed by the film company Film Ventures International, which was recognized for distributing a lot of independent horror films. The studio originally hit it big by distributing the film Grizzly, which was one of the earliest and most successful Jaws ripoffs. But when the studio released the film Great White in US theaters, Universal sued to block the film's release because it was so similar to Jaws, and they were successful. And after sinking so much money into the theatrical release of Great White, they were left on the verge of bankruptcy. And then the company's founder actually stole $1 million and disappeared. He still has not been found to this day. So Great White actually led to the collapse of a company and one of the most mysterious disappearances in all of B-movie history. But aside from its interesting production history, Great White gets 4 fake rubber sharks out of 10. It takes one of the most iconic horror films of all time and reduces it to a product of banality in Italian B-movie filmmaking, with occasionally just enough mediocrity and ridiculous badness to entertain. And that does it for today's episode of Delightfully Devilish, you guys. If you have any more ideas of films you want me to review, please leave them in the comment section below. Otherwise, if you want to see more episodes, please hit that subscribe button. So until next time, I've been your host, Jukebox Harry. Peace.